There comes a silence so dense it no longer asks for peace, it only asks to be heard. And in that silence, if you dare to stay long enough, you will find a truth no one ever advertised. That everything you've been chasing was designed to make you forget what you are. You weren't born to be entertained. You were born to suffer, and in suffering to remember. Because pain, unlike pleasure, cannot be faked. It does not flatter you. It does not wait for applause. It tears the curtain from the stage and forces you to face what was always behind it, nothing. The modern world hates this truth, because it cannot be sold. You can't bottle nothingness. You can't make a brand out of emptiness. So they sell you its opposite, the noise, the chase. They tell you to dream big, but they never tell you what a dream costs, not in money, but in identity. Your dreams are not yours. They have been hijacked by systems that thrive on your amnesia. They do not want you to wake, because a man who wakes is a man who sees, and a man who sees cannot be controlled. Look around. Everyone is tired, but no one knows why. Everyone is anxious, but no one remembers what they're running from. This is not coincidence, it is design. Your exhaustion is the price of their machinery. Your confusion is the fuel of their momentum. They call it progress. But what is progress when the soul is shrinking? The marketplace does not care for your essence. It only wants your habits. It wants your addiction to become predictable, your insecurities to become trends, and your longing to be packaged into something aspirational. What they call self-expression is often just self-marketing. Your page, your brand, your curated self. But beneath it all, the tremor of something deeper, a whisper that cannot be monetized, a sacred ache that does not go away with followers, likes, or even applause. Have you ever stopped and asked, not what you want from life, but what life wants from you? Not in the sentimental sense, but in the cold, metaphysical sense. What if the purpose of your existence was not to be fulfilled, but to be broken open? This is the wound the world refuses to speak of. The wound of being, the quiet panic of existence itself. That no amount of achievement, pleasure, or validation can remove the fact that you are alone in your own consciousness. And yet, this aloneness is the door to awareness, the door to liberation, but not the kind they promise in magazines or spiritual retreats. The true liberation is bitter. It strips you naked. It humbles you to ash. But in that ash you will find the one thing they could never take. The witness, the one who sees, the one who remembers what it's like to feel something that cannot be explained, only endured. You are not lost. You are hidden beneath the rubble of performance, beneath the layers of conditioning, the smiles that hurt to hold, the ambitions that were never truly yours. Let them fall, one by one. Not in rage, but in mourning. Mourn the dreams you were sold. Mourn the life that was scripted for you. Mourn the future you were told to build, even as it killed the present inside you. This mourning is sacred, because it is the beginning of awakening. You cannot reclaim what is real until you let the false die. Not with violence, but with stillness. This world has enough screaming. It needs more silence, the kind that listens, not escapes. Your suffering is not a glitch. It is not something to numb or bypass. It is the call of the soul whispering that the path you've taken is no longer aligned with truth. But they will try to sedate you, with more tasks, more desires, more meaning-making. And here lies the cruelest irony. The more you chase meaning, the more you become a slave to it. Because meaning, too, can become a cage if it is not chosen from within. So stop. Not forever, but long enough to see what is happening to you. You are being trained to feel never enough. Not for the sake of growth, but for the sake of consumption. A spiritually famished population is an obedient one. A distracted soul is a profitable soul. And you were born for more than this circus of endless craving. But more does not mean louder, shinier, faster. It means deeper, truer, quieter. Let yourself descend, not into depression, but into honesty. The honesty of looking around and seeing that most of what people call living is a long, slow sleepwalk toward a death no one dares to name. But you have paused. You are here, which means you still hunger for something unnameable. Let that hunger gnaw, not to be fed, but to be understood as the will's grip tightening. Do not follow it. Observe it until it dissolves. Not toward comfort, but toward clarity. And when the illusions scream louder, smile, because the ego always fights hardest when it is near death. Let it die. Let it die, so the silence beneath it can finally breathe. Suffering is not an interruption of life. It is life unmasked, unperfumed, untamed. All joy is a borrowed flicker, a kind indulgence from a universe otherwise indifferent. And yet, how strange we spend our days fleeing the only truth that never leaves us, that to exist is to ache. To ache for meaning, for belonging, for something that does not vanish when the applause stops or the body begins to fail. But the world teaches us to smile through it, to perform happiness as if it were virtue, to call our distractions passions, our numbness strength, and our restlessness ambition. And in doing so, we forget what it means to simply sit in the ruin of what is and not flinch. The deepest clarity is born when all false lights go out. When you no longer chase explanations, but stare directly into the void that no longer promises to blink back. This is the bitter gift of suffering. It brings you home not to comfort, but to truth. And truth does not pamper. It does not seduce. It does not flatter your dreams. It unravels them. It leaves you stripped of narratives and asks, now that there is nothing left to pretend, what remains of you? The answer, if you listen long enough, is silence. Not the silence of absence, but of essence. The silence of a soul that has stopped negotiating with illusion, that no longer prays to the gods of validation, to the cults of more, to the lies of control. Control, the most seductive illusion of them all. We call it planning. We call it responsibility. But beneath it is fear. Fear that life will not bend to our ego's will. Fear that if we do not grip it tightly enough, we will be nothing. But what if the truth is this? We are nothing. And from that nothingness, all freedom begins. To be nothing is not a curse. It is the only state in which we are no longer slaves. No longer bound to the identity we've worn like armor. No longer imprisoned by hope disguised as strategy. We are taught to build ourselves like fortresses, but the soul is not a fortress. It is a window. And suffering breaks it open so the wind of reality can finally pass through. Let it pass through you. Let it hollow you of delusion. Let it carry away every counterfeit promise whispered into your ears by a culture that profits off your panic. Because in that hollowing, you will feel grief. Grief is not clarity. It is simply the will, howling in protest as its illusions crumble. Do not glorify it. It is not sacred. It is not healing. It is the toll you pay for desiring what was never real. There is no arrival. There is no finish line. Only layers peeling, shedding, decaying until what remains is not something new, but something ancient. Not reinvented, but remembered. And when you finally detach not in coldness, but in reverence, you will see that much of what you called love was fear of loneliness. That much of what you called purpose was fear of being forgotten. That much of what you called growth was a desperate dance to avoid sitting still. Stillness, the forbidden sanctuary. Because in stillness, we see. And in seeing, we awaken. Not to a better version of ourselves, but to the absence of selves entirely. Who are you when there is nothing to prove? Nothing to gain? Nothing to protect? You are not the voice in your head. You are the awareness hearing the voice. And that awareness cannot be sold, cannot be praised, cannot be threatened. It simply is. And because it simply is, it is free. But freedom is terrifying. Because it means you can no longer blame. Not the world. Not the past. Not even the pain. To awaken is to stand naked in the storm and whisper, I will no longer participate in the lie. Not with rage. Not with vengeance. But with the quiet certainty of one who has stepped outside the theater and watches the drama burn from a distance. You are not here to fix the world. You are here to stop mistaking it for home. Let others chase. Let them build monuments of sand and weep when the tide returns. Let them call your stillness madness. Let them name your solitude defeat. But you will know the truth. You will know that to be fully awake in this world is to live among illusions without buying them. To walk through the market of souls without putting your own up for sale. To suffer, yes, but to suffer consciously. Not as victim, but as witness. And in that witness, the dream ends, and the watching begins. Most people are not living, they are reacting. Each day, they carry the burden of yesterday into the theater of today, rehearsing their roles with hollow eyes and tired hearts. And they call this memory. They call it identity. But it is only inertia, the momentum of forgetting oneself. The ego craves routine, not for the sake of peace, but for the illusion of control. It prefers a predictable hell over an unknown liberation. It will choose repetition over revelation, even if it bleeds in the process. And so, we wear the same masks, say the same words, and call it stability. But underneath, the soul paces like an animal in a cage, restless, unseen, and slowly starving. We are not taught to see ourselves. We are taught to decorate ourselves. We are trained in the art of impression, of adaptation, of fitting in, and we call it maturity. But maturity, in truth, is the art of shedding what was never ours to carry. It is the process of unbecoming everything we were praised for becoming. It is the slow, surgical detachment from every lie we called love, every ambition we mistook for meaning, every distraction we named destiny. And detachment is not the absence of care, it is the presence of clarity. It is the refusal to confuse stimulation with connection. It is the silent rebellion of a soul that has remembered its sovereignty. A soul that no longer mistakes noise for truth, speed for progress, or applause for worth. They will tell you to set goals, but most goals are escape routes. They are fantasies dressed as future. They are ways to avoid the unbearable now. To be truly present without crutches, without dreams, is to encounter the raw wound of being. And yet, it is only through that wound that reality seeps in. You cannot be healed by the same system that made you sick. And yet, most people turn to the same tools that hollowed them out. More tasks, more plans, more affirmations. But the soul does not need affirmations. It needs honesty, not the kind that sounds good, the kind that breaks you. Because real healing does not feel like rising. It feels like falling, like losing your grip on every identity you fought to maintain, like dissolving into a space where no one applauds and nothing echoes back. And this is where illusion dies. And in its corpse, you may catch a glimpse of truth, if you are still willing to see without hope, in the void, in the unbranded silence, in the death of becoming. But do not fear this death. It is sacred. It is the shedding of illusion. It is the funeral of false purpose. And though it will feel like betrayal, it is in fact a return. A return to the self that existed before the world told you who to be, before the conditioning, before the fear. You are not here to fulfill expectations. You are here to witness your own unraveling. You are here to stand still while the currents of culture try to drag you into the machinery of ambition. And in that stillness, you will suffer. But it will be the kind of suffering that clarifies, not corrupts. Modernity is not progress. It is acceleration. And what we call advancement is often just a more sophisticated form of avoidance. We have traded inner life for interface, stillness for stimulation, reflection for performance, and the price has been our peace. But peace is not passive. It is not soft. True peace is a weapon against illusion. It is forged in the fire of disillusionment. It is earned through the courage to stop running and to sit with the ache of existence without anesthetic. You will not find it in comfort. You will not find it in achievement. You will not find it in the arms of someone who sees only your mask. You will find it in surrender. In the brutal grace of letting go, not because you gave up, but because you saw clearly. Clarity costs everything. It costs approval. It costs fitting in. It costs the sweet narcotic of being liked. But in return, it gives you back your eyes. It gives you back your voice. It gives you back your soul, the one you buried beneath roles, routines, and recognition. And when you live from this place, this deep, ancient place beneath the noise, you will begin to see through people, through systems, through promises. You will see not what they say, but what they serve. And most serve fear. Most serve survival. Most serve the same emptiness they deny. But you will serve silence. You will serve presence. You will serve truth, even when it costs you everything that made you feel special. Because you will know that specialness is a cage, too. A golden mask that keeps you smiling while you rot beneath. The way back is not upward, it is downward, into the depths of what you've avoided, into the grief you never named, into the dreams you outgrew but kept performing. This descent is the way. The falling is the becoming. And when you finally hit the bottom, when there is nothing left to fix, to achieve, to decorate, you will look in the mirror and see, not a brand, not a role, not a goal, but a void a presence, a still, unshakable awareness that simply is. And in that moment, you will know peace. Not because everything is fine, but because you are no longer at war with what is. The war ends not with victory, but with vision, when you no longer fight to be someone, but simply are. And in that presence, the world loses its power over you. You are no longer hijacked. You are no longer dreaming. You are here, entirely, silently, free. Look closely, and you will see. Most relationships are agreements between wounds. Two people, each hoping the other will silence a terror they have never faced alone. This is why love, as it is commonly known, so often becomes a battlefield. Not because love itself is cruel, but because we enter it not as whole beings, but as fragmented selves bargaining for escape. We call it romance. We call it partnership. But how much of it is simply a mutual forgetting? A soft conspiracy to keep each other asleep? They do not teach you that real connection requires solitude first. That unless you have sat long enough in the empty room of your own being, you will mistake attention for intimacy and validation for care. So many are terrified of being alone. But solitude is not isolation. Solitude is communion with truth. And those who run from it will always be hungry in company, always needing more words, more reassurance, more sacrifice. Because they have never learned to feed themselves on stillness. You must die to the idea that someone else can save you. You must bury the fantasy that your emptiness will be filled by another's presence. That story is a lullaby. It comforts, but it kills. And what of success? What of the dream we are sold since childhood? That we must climb, conquer, leave behind. It is a clever seduction. Because what we call success is often just fear wearing a medal. It is the fear of being seen as ordinary. The fear of dying without applause. The fear that if we are not more than others, we are less than human. But the wise do not seek greatness. They seek freedom even from the need to be great. They trade applause for anonymity. They trade becoming for being. And in that trade, they are reborn. You were not born to accumulate. You were born to witness. To witness the dance of form and formlessness, the rise and fall of identities, the constant death of the moment. Everything you cling to is already fading. Your youth, your titles, your relevance. And when they fall away, what remains? This is the question you must live with. Not someday, but now. Let your suffering strip away the unnecessary. Let it pry your fingers from the illusions you grip so tightly. Let it lead you to the quiet center, the place where no story survives. And you will weep. You will resist. Because this is not what you were promised. You were told that life would reward you for trying. That if you played by the rules, you would be spared the void. But the void was always there. Underneath the gold stars and job titles, beneath the achievements and spiritual performances. It was waiting, patiently, for you to stop pretending. The void is not your enemy. It is your beginning. It is the sacred womb of all becoming. But only when you stop trying to escape it. So stop. Just stop. Not forever. Just long enough to hear what your life has been trying to say. Beneath the noise, beneath the urgency, beneath the lie that you are behind. You are not behind. You are exactly where awakening begins. In the unraveling. In the ache. In the dark room where no one is watching. And from that place, a strange beauty will emerge. Not the beauty they sell, not the polished glow of aspiration, but the quiet, disarming beauty of truth. The beauty of a face no longer performing. The beauty of a voice that does not need to persuade. The beauty of a soul that has ceased running. This is what they fear. Not your strength, but your stillness. Not your passion, but your presence. Because a man who sees clearly cannot be manipulated. He is not moved by flattery. He is not baited by shame. He does not trade his silence for noise, his essence for exposure. This man or woman is no longer a product of the world. They are a witness to it. And that is the most dangerous thing one can be. So if you feel lost, if you feel like everything is falling apart, do not rush to rebuild. Let it fall. Let it all collapse. Every false identity, every illusion of control, every mask you've worn to survive. What survives the collapse was never yours to lose. Grief becomes holy the moment you stop resisting it. Not because it leaves you comforted, but because it leaves you honest. It is not a visitor to be entertained, but a truth to be endured. And in enduring, something breaks, but what breaks is false. No one teaches us how to grieve the lives we never lived. The paths we abandoned, not by choice, but by obedience. The versions of ourselves we exiled just to belong. So we carry unspoken funerals within us. We bury dreams beneath job titles, bury instincts beneath social etiquette, bury rage beneath smiles. And then we wonder why the soul grows cold. The soul grows cold because it is tired of being polite, tired of waiting for permission to scream, tired of pretending that silence is peace, when silence has been a cage. But let the silence be your cathedral. Not the silence of repression, but the silence of presence. The silence that listens, not to respond, but to witness. In this silence, you will hear the death rattle of everything you thought was you. Your personality a costume tailored by trauma and culture. Your preferences, advertisements embedded in your nervous system. Even your spirituality often just ego wearing a white robe. Strip it all away. Every affirmation, every label, every mission statement. And stand there, bare, ordinary, unmarketable. This is where truth lives. And when it finds you, it will not speak in thunder. It will whisper. It will ask only one question. Are you ready to be no one? Because to be no one is to finally be free. From the performance of self. From the burden of being seen. From the prison of becoming. Modernity fears this. Because if enough people wake up and stop performing, the machine grinds to a halt. So it feeds you 1,000 reasons to stay asleep. It calls exhaustion grind. It calls obedience professionalism. It calls self-abandonment maturity. But maturity is not the suppression of the wild. It is its integration. It is learning to walk into the world with fire in your chest and still say no with grace. Say no to what numbs you. Say no to what flatters you. Say no to anything that requires you to betray your inner silence, just to earn love or applause. You were not made for applause. You were made to see through the mask of culture, the veil of normalcy, the glamour of success. And seeing will cost you. It will cost you your belonging. It will cost you the comfort of groupthink. It will cost you the innocence of ignorance. But what you gain in return is worth the funeral. You gain your eyes, your breath, your ability to sit in a moment and not need it to be different. Detachment is not indifference. It is intimacy without addiction. It is care without control. It is love without possession. It is the knowing that you can touch beauty without needing to keep it. This world teaches the opposite. That to love is to hold. That to succeed is to accumulate. That to matter is to be seen. But real love sets free. Real success is the freedom from needing it. And to matter truly is to exist without performance. To look at a flower and not post it. To feel joy and not monetize it. To be alone and not announce it. This is the quiet revolution. Not a protest in the streets, but a refusal in the soul. A refusal to be hijacked again. You are not here to become a brand. You are not here to win at a game rigged against your spirit. You are here to return. Return to the root, to the breath, to the truth beneath the costume. And that truth is not dramatic. It is not loud. It is not charismatic. It is still. It is vast. It is yours. Not because you earned it, but because you never lost it. You will begin to see that most of what passes for culture is not expression, but compensation. Art as therapy. Sex as self-worth. Work as identity. Consumption as relief. And none of it heals. It pacifies. It delays. It distracts the soul just long enough to postpone the reckoning. But the reckoning comes. It always does. It arrives not as crisis, but as quiet. As the strange heaviness in a room you once loved. As the dull ache in conversations you once craved. As the slow erosion of meaning from things that used to ignite you. It comes in the middle of the applause. In the moment of victory, when you realize the mountain you climbed was built on the bones of who you really were. And so the grief begins again. But this time, deeper, not just for what was lost, but for the years you spent pretending it wasn't, for the friendships that were never real, for the goals that were only masks, for the words you swallowed just to stay acceptable. And still, even in the grief, you are closer to the truth than ever before, because now you are no longer running. You are watching the story collapse. You are watching the scaffolding fall. And beneath the ruins, something silent begins to rise. Not a new dream, not a better plan, but a presence, unbothered, unshaped, untouched by all your strategies. It watches your suffering, not with pity, but with knowing, because it understands. This was the only way. There is no awakening without unraveling, no clarity without collapse, no return without first being lost. You must forget the language of progress and remember the language of presence, that quiet, primal rhythm of being, before you learn to call it unproductive. And when you return to that rhythm, when you finally hear the music beneath the noise, you will understand why everything had to fall apart. Not because life is cruel, but because illusion is persistent. And sometimes, the soul must be stripped naked, just to remember it was never meant to wear clothes. So detach, not from life, but from the lie that your worth must be proven, that your suffering is a sign of failure, that your silence is a problem to be solved. It is not. It is a doorway, and all that is real will meet you there. But few will follow you through, because most are still trying to fix what is already rotting, still trying to decorate the cage, still trying to breathe life into the corpse of their former self. Let them. Do not argue. Do not convince. Just walk, quietly, clearly, into the unknown. Because in the unknown, you will find what cannot be taught. You will find a peace that does not need permission, a purpose that does not need an audience. No joy endures. It is merely the momentary relief when the will rests, before hungering again. What you call joy is only the forgetting of pain. And with it, you will know. Your dreams were not stolen. You gave them away. One compromise at a time. One performance at a time. One yes when you meant no. But now that you've died 1,000 small deaths, you are finally ready to be born without noise. And birth, real birth, is never loud. It is trembling. It is quiet. It is sacred. And it does not ask the world to notice. There is a moment, not marked by triumph, but by the absence of striving, when you no longer need the world to change in order to feel whole. It is not a moment of arrival. It is a moment of disappearance. You no longer seek to be seen, because you have seen yourself. Not the self that was praised, not the self that adapted, but the silent watcher behind the mask, the one who endured it all and asked for nothing in return. This is the true self. Not impressive, not decorated, not aspirational, just real. It moves slowly. It speaks only when necessary. It hungers for nothing but honesty. You will notice its presence in the way you stop explaining yourself, in the way you begin to walk away without rage, in the way you no longer seek revenge, because you finally understand that to seek it is to stay tethered to what harmed you. You no longer live in reaction. You no longer measure your days by outcomes. You are not here to win, not here to impress, not here to fix anything. You are here to witness, to be a presence so deeply rooted in truth that even the storms bow in your silence, and the world will not understand. It will call your detachment cold. It will call your clarity arrogance. It will call your peace laziness. Let it speak. You owe it nothing, because when you no longer need to be understood, you are finally free from the hunger that kept you chained to performance. And in this freedom, the soul blooms, not like a firework, but like moss on stone. Slow, patient, unshakable. Joy may appear, not as a gift, but as a brief absence of torment. Do not cling to it. It vanishes the moment the will awakens. True wisdom lies not in chasing joy, but in ceasing to beg for its return. Peace is not dawn, it is not coffee. It is the numb quiet of one who no longer argues with pain. You do not find it. You fall into it when all wanting has collapsed. You may speak of love, but love is the most exquisite illusion the will ever conjured. A bait dressed in tenderness, dragging two beings into a shared deception. For the sake of reproduction, not redemption. Do not romanticize it. Love does not save. It seduces the soul into believing there is salvation in another's arms, when in truth, you are merely a vessel for nature's blind hunger to replicate itself. Do not seek purpose. Purpose is the bait the will uses to keep you running. It whispers of meaning, only to vanish when grasped. The wise do not follow currents. They step out of the river entirely. This is the gift of collapse. Not a new self, but the shedding of the need for one. Not a better dream, but the end of dreaming as escape. Not the return to who you were, but the emergence of who was always there. Beneath the noise, beneath the name, beneath the need. You are not here to awaken others. You are not here to be a guide, a teacher, a light. You are here to be real, to sit in truth so fully that even the lies nearby begin to tremble. You are here to remember that silence is not emptiness. It is fullness without noise. It is presence without performance. So sit, breathe, detach, not out of defeat, but out of reverence for what you finally see. There is nothing to chase, nothing to fix, nothing to become. There is only this breath, this moment, this strange, beautiful ache of being alive, without illusion. There is no soul to return. What you called you was a mask stitched by craving. When the illusions fall, there is no whisper, only the cold wind of truth. No peace, only absence. And in that absence, the first freedom, as the life you were always meant to live, before they told you who you had to be. Welcome home.